Howard Bryant joining us right now, 104.5 The Team, Levack and Goz. Great article at ESPN, the magazine, about Carmelo Anthony. Howard, so much is being made about Colin Kaepernick and the way he gets his point across. What do you think of the way Melo gets his point across?
Well, I think the thing that struck me most about Carmelo was, one, I'd never met him, so I didn't have any idea what to expect from him. I was shocked by how plugged in and how attuned he is to not just the social issues, but just athletes' power in general. I mean, it was a really wild interview in terms of how much power and leverage he thinks athletes have and how little he thinks they use it.
Do you think he uses it enough? I mean, we saw them come out before the ESPYs. You know, he and I call them the banana boat crew, Howard, because they're all the guys that are supposed to be on the banana boat.
On the Caribbean cruise, right?
Right. Do you think? I mean, we saw that, but do you think Melo speaks out enough?
I think that he's finding his voice right now, and I think that he's very much aware of the leverage that they have. I think that the Freddie Gray incident in Baltimore, obviously his death is what you don't hear Carmelo at all if that doesn't happen. So I think that this is really just the beginning for him. I also think that the real interesting thing when it comes to him as a player is that it wasn't just the police brutality conversation that we had. It was also talking about schools. He was kind of like a political figure. He talked about schools and about jobs and also as well about how much power the players had when he was talking about Donald Sterling, that if the Knicks had been in the playoffs at that time and that had gone down, that he would have refused to play. I wonder how many of his teammates would have followed him, but that was a pretty strong statement for me.
Howard, how did this come together? Because we're 2 weeks, basically now less than a week away from the start of the NBA season. Did Melo reach out to you? Did he reach out to ESPN and want this message to get across and felt like this was the right forum to do it?
Yeah, well, about a month ago, I got a phone call from the bosses at ESPN, from my editors, who said, hey, how would you like to do a sit-down with Carmelo? And I said, well, what about? And he says, well, he doesn't really want to talk basketball. It's all going to be about Kaepernick and about where we are in America and the social climate and everything. And I said, absolutely. I mean, I was amazed that he was willing to do that so close to the season. But when we sat down and talked, he said that basketball was the easy part. And I think that he really is. I think he's another one of those people, whether you're talking about Megan Rapinoe or you're talking about Kaepernick, it's a generational thing where this period in time for them seems to be really, really important, and that they're not shy about talking about it. And once again, I think that the thing that really separates Carmelo is, one, the limitations of his voice. He was talking about, hey, none of this means anything. And he doesn't, taking a knee before the national or during the national anthem before every game, or me locking arms with my teammates. It doesn't mean anything if we're not going to get any significant change. So it's really not just a showpiece. It's not something that, hey, look at me, I'm taking a stand. I mean, the thing that was really interesting with him was that, to his mind, none of this means anything if there's no change.
Howard Bryant, he's an author, he's a columnist, ESPN, the magazine, and he joins us right now on 104.5 The Team.
And you discussed that change, and there's one part, and again, if you get a chance to check it out, some of it's available right now online at ESPN.com, that Kaepernick reaches out to Carmelo directly and asks him that question, what do I do next?
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating, and I didn't get a chance to ask him, how do you guys know each other? I mean, the thing that struck me about that was it's obvious that these guys are all talking to each other behind closed doors. That I don't know if Colin Kaepernick and Carmelo Anthony go way back, or if this was simply a chance conversation because of what Colin had done. But it does show you how much these guys are talking and how much they're coordinating and what they think of what's taking place. Carmelo also talked about not wanting to beat a dead horse. And he says, look, my voice isn't going to mean anything if something isn't happening in the larger framework. And I think you saw the other day that the head of the top of the largest police union in the country pretty much came out and apologized for the historical treatment of minorities. And so I think you're seeing some things start to happen. And I think people like to ascribe motives to these guys. But I think what's interesting is that they're citizens. And even despite all the millions of dollars that they're making, they're acting as citizens. And that's something that you really didn't see during the Michael Jordan era or the O.J. Simpson era, for that matter.
Howard Bryant with us. And Howard, when you think about the fact the debate's on last night, they're basically like our two presidential candidates are squabbling with each other and stepping on each other, and we've got athletes making more sense in some situations than them. What does that say about this country right now?
Well, we're a mess. I mean, it says that there's a lot of discord and not a lot of discourse. And it's I think what I appreciated most about Carmelo was there's a lot of guys out there who are talking, whether it's Cam Newton or whether it's Kurt Schilling or Boomer Esiason, a lot of guys out there who are talking on a lot of stuff, and they don't know what they're talking about. What I appreciated most about Carmelo is that he was not out of his depth. And anytime we had a conversation that he didn't know, he didn't make it up like a lot of ball players do. When you stick a mic in their face, he's like, look, I'm not well-versed on that subject. He didn't just decide to go wing it. And that was really impressive for athletes, especially because so many of them feel compelled to say something even if they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
You brought up a little bit earlier here Michael Jordan, and some looked at Michael Jordan as saying he was the perfect athlete because he stayed away from certain things like that. But guys like LeBron and Carmelo, that was their guy growing up. And maybe for younger athletes, they look at guys like Carmelo and LeBron and Chris Paul and the Banana Crew and think, hey, I can take a step in being vocal in certain issues and political beliefs and things like that. Do you think this is going to be encouraging for the future of athletes that they will continue to be involved in issues like this?
Well, it's a great conversation about power. I mean, what allows you to speak? The ability to think that you can't be hurt or that you can't be hurt as much by talking or that there's some profit in it. And obviously that's a cynical thing to think about. But when you're thinking about these players, one thing that Carmelo brought up was in the past, whether you're talking about the former Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Rauf, where he got silenced for protesting the national anthem back in the 1990s. I think that what Carmelo's really saying is a lot of ball players don't realize how much power they really have. He says so many players are just grateful to the owners for giving them millions of dollars when the bottom line is that no players, no league. I mean, that's a radical attitude to have when he comes out and he says that what really makes ownership uncomfortable is that there are so many players that have as much power as they have, and they don't like that. I mean, that strikes me as a guy who is aware that the league needs the players as much as the players need the league. I think one other thing about it that's great when you think about it is these guys are they're one of the very few groups of irreplaceable employees. There's only one LeBron James. There's only one Aaron Rodgers. There's only one Tom Brady. And so they do have a level of power that most of us just don't have.
Howard Bryant, you see him all over ESPN. ESPN, the magazine, is going to be in stores October 31st. You can get it now at ESPN.com. The Truth According to Carmelo Anthony. Howard, I didn't actually ask this question. What are your thoughts on Colin Kaepernick's stand by not taking a stand?
Well, my feeling is that I have a lot of feelings. I think one is that much of what he's doing is being completely distorted because the flag makes it distracting. On the one hand, when you protest the flag, people want to talk about the flag. He's not protesting the flag. He's talking about what the flag is supposed to symbolize, and that's justice for everybody. So on the one hand, I can feel that it's distorting because there are so many people, once again, the Tony La Russa's and the John Tortorella's and the rest of these guys that, once again, they have no idea what they're talking about. They are not versed in the subject. They know nothing about it, but yet they feel the need to talk. I think that's problematic. But on the other hand, you also recognize that if you didn't do something drastic, if you didn't do something that was going to get everybody's attention, then nobody was going to pay attention. So I always support the right of people to be citizens. And I think that as we've been talking about it, the impressive part of this once more is to make sure that if you're going to talk, make sure that you're not out of your depth. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Make sure you know the issues. And then I think it's actually a very, very much a positive. On the other hand, I think the downside of a lot of this is when you have people in media in our business and when you have people that really aren't versed in the subject, when things get distorted, then it all starts to fall apart. It's like you were saying about the debate, not having enough discourse. We definitely have a conversation started, and here we go, right? We'll see what takes place.
And Howard, we'll let you go on this. Is that the goal that you hope readers will take away from this piece with Carmelo Anthony? Or do you feel like something else you're hoping that the readers take away from it?
Well, I think what I want readers to take away is to get to know him. I think that whatever he wants to convey is what the readers should take away. And I think what he wanted to convey was, look, just because I'm a $100 million ball player doesn't subtract from me being a citizen, and that if there are some things that I feel strongly about, I want to discuss it, and I think that everybody else should do that too. I mean, one of the things that we did talk about too is this notion of being bulletproof or not being bulletproof. If you're Carmelo Anthony, you've got a lot of power right now. If you're the 25th man on the baseball roster, maybe you don't talk as much. But, as he said, you can't fire everybody. So I think that we're in a really interesting, special moment in time, generationally, and we'll see if this country comes together or it gets pulled apart.
Howard Bryant, again, you see him all over ESPN, and of course ESPN, the magazine, also an author. The Truth According to Carmelo Anthony, going to be in stores October 31st, ESPN.com right now. Howard, we can talk to you all day long. I appreciate you making time for us.
Hey, call anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. Safe travels.
Thank you.